everybody, I've done this video before, but I'm going to do a little updated video on it. What I'm going to cover today is the gearbox, kind of how it works, the basic operating principles, how does the machine do a short stroke and a long stroke, what all's involved, and the different operations of the pin setter. I'm also going to cover like an outer range, standing pins, and strike cycle and show you different aspects of the gearbox, and hopefully you'll understand a little bit more how it works and what all's there. Okay, on the Brunswick pin setter, this is your one-to-one. This is the cams that'll control your scissor operation right here, and then this one controls your rake height. And this one out here is used on the Model A's. It's not used on mine right now until I do the A conversion back. But right now, when it follows this cam, this is what controls the rake height. This controls the scissors and the deck shifting. And also over here is the 4-to-1. And it's called a 4-to-1 because it does 4 cycles or 4 rotations per cycle. The 1-to-1, of course, does 1 rotation per cycle. And then on this side of the gearbox, you have the 2-to-1. And this is the deck lowering link right here. This is for the long stroke. This is the hook for the short stroke. So it's the same cycle of the 2-to-1 every time the pin setter cycles, but if it's on this hook, it does a shorter cycle, a shorter rotation, and if it's on the deck lowering link, it does a longer length of travel. And on the A2 pin setters, instead of this deck lowering link, you're going to have a Scotch yoke. It's kind of a T-shaped thing, but it has the same purpose. And you see the deck lift shaft where it attaches right here with that pin through there. It's a good thing to go through every once in a while and make sure you still have a clip on here holding this in. I have seen where those clips fall off. That pin could go that way and eventually one day come out of the housing here, and then you're going to have a big mess on your hands. So check that every once in a while. But if right now it's on the long link right down here, and if I turn the pin setter on, this hook here on first ball will drop down and catch the pin through here. So I'm going to turn it on and run it through a cycle, and you'll see what happens. That hook will drop down, and it's going to do a standing pin cycle, so it's going to run on the short link twice instead of the long. Here we go. Then it's going to stay on the short link because it just detected standing pins. Now you're on second ball. You see you have this cam over here that roller falls on, which is what lifts the short link out of the way. And the detector controls whether it does a short stroke or a long stroke, and by a set of blocking fingers on the front of the detector. Okay, now I've got it set up to do a strike cycle. You'll see the short stroke hook will drop down on the first of the 2 cycles where the machine will go down and up, and then it's going to detect a strike, and the detector will tell the hook to lift up out of the way and let it go down on the long link for the second stroke. So it'll go short stroke, long stroke. Here we go. Short stroke, detects a strike, comes back to 180, hook lifts out of the way, then it rides the long link down. So the 2-to-1 does the same stroke each time. It's just a matter of which hook the pin setter rides on as to what level it goes to, and there's only 2 different levels. But we'll cover the 3 different heights in a moment on outer range, standing pin, and strike. Okay, so here on the front of the detector, you see these 2 little blocking fingers right there. As long as that top one clears the bottom one, well, you see here, I'm going to do a strike cycle. You'll see that bottom blocking finger come block it from going down. It's going to be able to do a short stroke whenever that finger clears. Comes up to 180, it's going down to a strike, it blocked it, and then made it do a long stroke. Now I'm going to do a standing pin cycle And you'll see when it goes down, it's going to do a short stroke. The blocking finger will not block it, and it will allow it to do another short stroke to set pins back down for second ball. Going down for first ball, short stroke. Coming up, we got standing pins. Blocking finger does not block it. And it's up out of the way, so after this one, it's going to let it do a short stroke and then a long stroke on second ball, even though the deck's not going to go down because of the deck holding hook. Short stroke, and then the finger's going to come block it here. Block it so it does a long stroke going down the set pins. Okay, this is the brain of the pin setter. This is the mechanical brain. It's fascinating. That gear on the top is part of the scoring system. The blue looks like a AA battery you see there is the Mercury Switch for the strike indicator. A lot of places don't use those anymore, but you got two little levers on here. And right now that little switch right there that you see is the 1-2 ball light. Whenever you push the switch, it shows 1, and on second ball it rotates forward, and that's when the second ball light comes on. The other one controls the strike indicator. It's pretty cool the way it works. As I say, a lot of places don't use that anymore. And then back here we have the clutch system. Right now it's on its clutch stop. This is the gearbox clutch itself, and whenever that arm is in the way right there, it stops the pin setter. That arm will always try to drop whenever this cam right here in the center is lifted. Right now it's kind of hard to see, but it's up on the top of its lobe right now. Whenever it comes up, it tries to push that arm down, and whenever that arm can't go down, the pin setter stops. So I'm going to reset it here and show you that it comes off. Right now it's not running, but I'm going to reset it and show you when it comes off, the machine's going to trigger. Okay, right now it won't go, but I'm going to reset it and show you that it's going to come off. The clutch is engaged. You see, here's that. Every time that comes around to the high point, it raises the clutch, or makes the clutch arm go down, like right there. Then it interferes right here, the machine stops. That's how the pin setter starts and stops the cycle, is by that little stop arm underneath that roller. Now, not very often, but you will have a pin slide out of range that the machine just can't pick up. And then you'll see the machine comes down and stops on it and doesn't proceed. Right here in between where my finger is, you see a little lever sticking out right there? Here's the clutch arm, here's the outer range linkage, but that little arm right there, then there's this little arm right here. Whenever you get an outer range, it pulls that little lever forward over here and gets under the clutch arm and does not allow the clutch arm to go down, and that stops the pin setter. This is going to try to go down. The little blocking finger is out of the way below, but on an outer range cycle only, this link right here will go forward, stopping this arm from going down. And then that's when you come and you clear the outer range by pulling this linkage here, which is this hook on the back of the pin setter. Now what happens when you do that is this will pull this guy back here, and then this will pull out of the way, and it'll start the cycle back up again. Okay, now I'm in an outer range cycle now. I'm about to cycle it, and what you're going to watch for is right here, this linkage right here that my finger's on top of is going to go forward and catch that little arm right there and stop the clutch arm from going back down, and that's what stops the pin setter in an outer range cycle. I'm going to turn it on and cycle it and watch how that happens. When the machine detects outer range, it'll pull that forward and stop the pin setter. Then when you pull this linkage here, this hook on the back, pulls this, which will pull this arm back out of the way and start the cycle back up again. But by pulling this linkage right here, tells the detector you're in an outer range cycle, and it does what I explained earlier on the outer range cycle. So here we go. Watch this guy right here go forward when I cycle it in an outer range. See, and it just stopped the pin setter by stopping the clutch arm from going down. And when you pull this, it gets it going again. and your outer range is cleared. But anyways, yeah, you're yanking that hook. It's this guy, which pulls this link right here, which tells the detector, hey, I'm in an outer range. Do the outer range cycle. And also there is a rod that goes up there, if you see it, that threaded rod in the middle. And there's a little blocking arm up there that will make the rake sweep hook come up and not go back down so the machine doesn't sweep, because the rake is going to want to sweep like normal on a standing pin cycle. But when you pull that hook on the back, it's going to pull that little linkage up there, and I'll show you how it prevents the sweep hook from being down to being able to sweep. That's why the rake will just sit there, finish the cycle, and then raise back up. So you can reset it now on an outer range cycle. Alright, he's going to pull the hook, and you'll see there it goes on top of that, and that's going to keep the rake sweep hook up on the second cycle. And now we're clear back to normal operation. And also, when you pull that linkage right there, and it pulls that guy on the detector, it's going to say, hey, this is outer range. And that deck holding hook you see right there will lock down instead of being up. So whenever the machine tries to go back down on the second stroke, that hook is down and keeps it up. That way the machine doesn't knock the pins over that you left for an outer range. So here we have an outer range situation. That pin's too far off spot to fit in the hole underneath the pin deck. So when I turn it on and cycle it, it's going to do an outer range cycle and stop the pin setter from everything how I just explained it to you. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on now and cycle it and show you how to clear it. Okay, the lever you see hanging down is only there for whenever the machine outer ranges, that roll pin sticking out, that will get caught on top of the roll pin, which will stop the rake sweep hook from being down and the rake sweeping into the pin standing on the lane. So we're going to do an outer range cycle now, and you'll see where that'll get caught on that as soon as we clear the outer range. Go ahead. So you can reset it now on an outer range cycle. Alright, he's going to pull the hook, and you'll see there it goes on top of that, and that's going to keep the rake sweep hook up on the second cycle. And now we're clear back to normal operation. Alright, we're getting ready to detect outer range. The clutch is going to stop the machine. He's going to pull the hook now. Deck is up. Rake will skip sweeping on the second time. Goes second ball, then the rake comes up. Now when the machine comes down to 90 degrees on first ball cycle, it'll detect one of three heights, and that'll tell the detector what situation you're under. If it comes down at 15 inches, it'll say, hey, there's an outer range, stop the clutch, stop the show, freeze the pin setter until it's cleared properly so you can shoot your outer range pins where they were for second ball. The second one, it comes down to 10 inches off the lane, is going to tell the detector, hey, there's standing pins, go through a first ball to second ball cycle, operate the scissors, and then go to second ball. And then the third one, if it comes down and it's about 8 3/4 inches off the lane, it's going to say, hey, guy got a strike, go ahead and don't operate the scissors, but do operate the moving deck and put it on a long stroke and set 10 pins down on the lane back on first ball. There's a detector rod attached from the deck lift shaft to the detector underneath, and that tells right at 90 degrees in a split second what height it's at, and tells the detector, and it'll do one of three things. Pretty fascinating. So I'll go and go through the cycles now and show you what I'm talking about the different heights. And right at 90 degrees when the deck comes down is when it tells the detector what height it's at. One of three things happens. Here we go. Okay, this is an outer range cycle. This is one height the machine will come down to and stop. This is a standing pin cycle. This is the second height the deck will come down to. And this is a strike cycle. This is the third height that the deck comes down to. Okay, here is the scissor blocking finger. Right now I'm at 90 degrees on a strike, and that blocking finger just came back to block the cam roller from being able to follow. The detector just decided it was a strike, so it pulled that blocking finger back to stop the scissors from operating. If it hadn't, then it would have been out of the way. That arm could have gone down, and then you'd be able to run through a respot cycle and the scissors would operate. Let me show you a cycle without it being in strike to show you how the difference is. Now here's the machine at 90 degrees in a standing pin cycle. See how that blocking finger stayed forward, and now that arm can follow the cam, and now the scissors are going to be able to close. I'll go ahead and do it through a regular cycle so you can watch it actually happening. Now I'm in first ball right now, and that blocking finger is free to move down. And watch when I cycle it here in a standing pin cycle what happens. Fingers out of the way, allowed it to drop, and the scissors operated. Now I'm back in first ball. I'm going to do a strike cycle, and you're going to see how that blocking finger will come back and stop that cam follower from being able to go down when it detects a strike. Here we go, coming down to 90, it's going to detect strike. Real quickly, that blocking finger moves back out of the and stops the cam. We're setting a full rack of pins. Okay, this is the 4-to-1. It does 4 rotations per cycle. Its only duty is for the rake to sweep. Right here. This is the rake sweep hook. And when it comes forward the first time it's up and misses, then this drops down. So the second time it comes forward it grabs and pulls. Then the third time up it releases it. And I'll show you a cycle and show you how the 4-to-1 goes, and then I'll show you the hook and you'll see how it works. It'll make more sense then. Trivet, sweep hook misses, comes back. Now it's down, it catches, the rake sweeps, it goes forward, it releases the hook, and then forward it doesn't catch, and then we go back to 0. Alright, I'm having a little trouble with my deck light today. It's not coming on. I have to play with that later, but I'm going to show you now the 4 cycles, or the different stages. If you ever hear a 180 stop and wonder why is it a 180 stop, that means the machine stopped halfway through a cycle, which is when the rake is back. 90 stop, or a 90 degrees, is when the machine comes down to pick up pins. That's when the detector makes 1 of 3 decisions. Are we in a standing pin cycle, an out of range cycle, or a strike cycle? And the detector does what it needs to do to complete that cycle. Either go to second ball, operate the scissors, or a strike, set a new rack, or we out of range and let's engage the clutch stop arm, stop the pin setter so you can clear it and shoot what you left. So I'm going to start it up now and I'll just show you each. I'll just call it out as it goes. Alright, here we go. 90, 180, 270, 360, or 0. I'm going to cycle it now. We're at 90 on second ball, going to 180. We're at a 180 stop right now. The rake is back. We're waiting for pins to come up here. Until you get that 5 pin goes through in the index, you're going to be stopped at 180. There they just drop, trips it, comes out at 180, 270, 360, or 0. Okay, this is the second ball selector on the old Model A pin setter. The original ones were like this. The newer ones are a little bit different. It's more C-shaped. Let me show you what that looks like. Now see, mine's a little bit different. It's easier to put it in second ball by pushing this guy forward. And this is the second ball solenoid, like when you're in the 10th frame and you're going for the fill ball, this will kick the machine to second ball. That's kind of an add-on. That wasn't on the original Brunswick pin setter back in the day. But once the automatic scoring came along, they needed something that would make the machine go to second ball. But this is what the second ball selector looks like on my pin setter. You can always tell where is the machine on first ball or second ball by the deck holding hook. Right now we're in first ball. So I'm going to go ahead and push this forward right here. Now the machine's in second ball. So if I cycle it now, it's going to drop the rake, sweep, set new pins. Now you can look and see that we're in second ball because the deck holding hook is resting on the piece right here. Now, you see if we flip it back into first ball real quick while we're doing our live streams, you can lift up on it, and now it's back in first ball. Second ball, first ball. Now this is one of the older original hooks that came out on the Model A pin setter. A lot of places now have an aluminum adjustable one that you can set, because there's a pretty good gap up here in the front, but you can set the new ones and decrease that gap. Plus they're a little safer, they don't stick out as far, and mechanics, you know, it could be a safety thing. You could stand up and lift up on that thing accidentally when you have the machine weight being held by that holding hook, and it could drop. And plus it hurts like hell if you run into that thing. So right now, if you go to second ball and cycle it, the reason the deck doesn't come down is because that holding hook right there. I'm going to cycle it, and you'll see on second ball that the deck doesn't go down. Both hooks here is riding on the long link, and it wants to go down, but the reason it doesn't go down is because of the deck holding hook. So I'm going to cycle it here and show you. The clutch shaft stays up, both of them, because it's being held right there. Now we're in 180, back to first ball. Deck holding hook stays out of the way, back in first ball. Also, when you do an out of range and you pull that hook that we talked about earlier on the back of the pin setter, the detector will say, hey, I'm in an out of range cycle, going to clear it. It'll drop that holding hook down, which is why the machine comes up and doesn't go back down again like it normally would. It usually goes down, up on first to second ball cycle. But when you have an out of range, the detector will make that hook drop down, and it'll come up after it goes down to the outer range, and it won't go back down on the second time because that holding hook is keeping it from doing that. So this is a pretty smart brain. It's all mechanical. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you gained something out of this. I know it's kind of a long video, but there's a lot to show you about the Brunswick pin setter. If you got anything you want me to do, like break it down into a smaller, more detailed video or explain something else, let me know. Otherwise, watch the video, spread it around, and if you got any questions or comments, let us know. Until the next video, we'll see you in the garage. Thanks for watching.